In the words of Taylor Swift, rose gardens filled with thorns. Not all under the trendy streets are what they seem. Does a neighborhood really think it is too good for its inhabitants once gentrification rears its multifaceted head? Before we address the metaphorical roses or thorns, let us have a brief introduction to the rose in question. Footscray, a melting pot within 5 kilometres of Melbourne CBD, has been home to the Wurundjeri, Wawarong and the Boonwurrung people of the Kulin Nation for more than 40,000 years. First European contact was recorded in 1803 by Charles Grimes, Deputy Surveyor General of New South Wales. Until the 1940s, the population was primarily Australian-born or from the British Isles. World War I saw a large influx of migrants to the extent that in 1966, nearly a third of the population was born overseas, including but not limited to Italy, Greece, Malta, Poland, the former Republic of Yugoslavia, and Germany. By the 1980s, according to the Maribyrnong City Council, the area was a major location for the settlement of migrants and refugees, particularly from Indochina, the Middle East, and Central and South America. Most importantly, Footscray has historically been a working-class industrial suburb. With all this diversity, one thing can be assured: good food. It's one of its largest selling points, being mentioned in Time Out magazine, which states you can scoop up a goat curry with fresh injera, slurp up pho, and hunt down the best cannoli in town, all in the same street. This same 2019 article claims it is the 13th coolest neighbourhood not just in Australia, but the world. They make sure to mention the delectable banh mi of Nihulan and the bustling Footscray markets, so you know I had to give my somewhat solicited opinion. Before we critique the thorns, let us indulge in the roses. So I made my way from my inner-city apartment to Footscray. The journey was easy, with one bus from uni taking me to the central Irving Street. Immediately, I could see the Footscray markets and was enticed to have a look. There were fruits, vegetables, and yellow melon, which I'd never seen before. There are a myriad of mangoes and a plethora of potatoes, all for a seemingly decent price, where I found spring onions, which were cheaper than that at Coles. The diverse culture was clearly still intact, with Asian artifacts hanging from the ceiling. At least in this setting, Footscray appears to maintain its diversity. This trend continued as I walked down the busy streets to Nihulan, where I ordered the kebab banh mi for a mere $8.50. It was divine. All streets indicate a diverse mecca of cuisine, so this must reflect the truth, right? A short walk away was the beautiful Footscray Park, where I peacefully enjoyed my banh mi, and I got to thinking, isn't this just so livable? I was very wrong. To visit Footscray is one thing, to call it home is another. So who does call Footscray home, and who has? How has this changed in the wake of its makeover? According to a 2023 Guardian article, the life cycle of gentrification can be described as first comes the artist, then the real estate developers, and then the professionals. Arguably, the artists have always been present, with the opening of the Footscray Community Arts Centre in 1976. Then undeniably, Footscray fits the bill with housing developments. According to Victoria Gov, there are 2,000 more homes today than in 2011, and there are more than 5,000 apartments either under construction or in the planning pipeline. Then comes displacement and the rise of the professional class. When analysing the demographics, it paints a not-so-pretty picture. According to the Australian Bureau of Statistics, the population increased from 16,345 to 17,131. How has the market changed with this new demand? Most importantly, the cost of housing has skyrocketed, with the median house costing $788,000 in November of 2018 to peaking to $1,021,000 in August 2021. This averaged out to an 8.07% growth rate per year, compared to a citywide rate of 5.8%. The average weekly income has understandably increased from $1,314 in 2016 versus $1,763 in 2021. With an average wage growth of 3.12% from 1988 to 2024, it can be assumed that the income should have increased by 15.6%, or be $1,519. Yet income has increased by more than double that, at 34.17%, suggesting that something more sinister is at play. Clearly, unless a large portion of people have received promotion after promotion, it can be assumed that the population has changed. This is reflected in the statistics, which found a decrease in diversity as it went from a minority of Australian-born in 2016 at 29.9% to a majority at 50.9% in 2021, of which those with an English background increased from 16% to 22.5%. The education levels have also increased from 36.1% of people obtaining a bachelor's degree in 2016 to 43.2% in 2021. The workforce is predictably also changing, with the professional class increasing from 29% to 33.4%. From this, a few things can be stated. The average person from Footscray has become whiter, richer, and more well-educated. Without making any value judgments, it can be objectively said that Footscray, because of gentrification, has seen itself become more expensive to inhabit and less diverse a community. This then brings into question displacement and the shifting of cultures. Sisatininga gives some insight, claiming, one might argue that this is a recipe for multiculturalism, where differences coexist, or at least are juxtaposed. That might be true, if only the local wide gentrification culture does not displace the minority cultures and socioeconomic groups. Furthermore, Sitaninga puts forth the notion that preservation of cultural sites such as the Footscray markets, which is now the talks to become a mixed-use tower on podium development, is key, a tragedy indeed. The problem with displacement is that it forces individuals to move into the cheaper suburbs, thereby hindering their proximity to work where public transport is already less accessible, leading to a decreased quality of life. It cannot be understated the emotional aspect of no longer affording to live in the place you call home. So what can be done about this? The Guardian puts forth the notion that fairer outcomes of gentrification requires statewide, if not nationwide, change. There are 3 pillars to this theory: fairer housing, fairer public transport, and fairer schooling. The first pillar describes the development of social housing interspersed within the community to avoid segregation. In 2021, it was recorded that 6.6% of the population were in social housing, which is more than twice the citywide rate of 3%. Perhaps not all is lost. However, this is a vast difference to beacons of social housing such as Vienna, a city with one of the lowest levels of inequality, where subsidized housing equates to 60% of the rental market. The second pillar, fairer public transport, is arguably already achieved with the likes of concession cards and daily caps. The last pillar is also achieved with all teachers being state employees. This all sounds positive. These can be seen as protective factors in curbing the effects of gentrification, and they seem to have worked, with house prices stabilizing and eventually decreasing. Though the roses were infested with thorns, the